Across from me over here, I have a rock spot with eats, and we've been coming here for years and years and years fishing, and we always camp out there, you know, and have a fire, whatever, just hang out and fish all night. Never had any issues. And one night I fell asleep early, and I kind of just, you know, sleep on the ground because that's what we do. We didn't have hammocks at that time, but I vaguely remember him kicking me and trying to wake me up like there's something out here, like there's something behind here, but I just kind of was like, yeah, you know, and I kept sleeping. But I remember in my subconscious sleeping him doing this, and when I woke up in the morning, you know, he was still sitting there wide awake, and then he started to tell me about it, and he didn't get into too big a detail because I think he just wanted to get out of there. And ever since then, years had gone by, he stopped coming with me, and he always made excuses like, oh, I'm working, this and that, and this and that. Years and years go by, and what was it, 2 years ago, October 31st, Halloween night, and I didn't even know it was Halloween night because I don't pay attention to Halloween, you know, I'm older, and I decided to come out here, and I came out about an hour before sunset, and I set up a lean-to. I just had a branch that was overhanging where I was sleeping. I put a tarp over it, and I kind of just, you know, lay there and decided I was going to go to sleep. And I passed out early, right about when it got dark. And I'd say, I remember it was like 2:58 a.m. It was like right, I remember because I looked at my watch. And I got woken up to what I can recall and what I haven't stopped remembering was at least 2 to 3, possibly 4. And I could tell by the echoes from the valleys because, you know, when there's sound over here, it echoes, and it could be disorienting, so it's hard to tell where it's coming from. But I knew there was something on this side of the lake, and there was something very close to me down on this corner. And it was at least 100 yards away, and that was the first one that sounded off. And you could tell by the diaphragm of whatever this was, which now I know it was a Bigfoot. I mean, there's no other explanation. It's one of those things, like I told you before, you can go your whole life not caring about it, not thinking about it, never watching those TV shows, but you know what they are, you just don't care about it. But as soon as I heard it, it was instantaneous. That's what that is. It was so instantaneous, it was like your whole world just changes in a millisecond. And I opened my eyes after hearing this, and they all started kicking off, the couple that were around here, and it was like the Pittsburgh ape exhibit. That's the best way I can express what I said before. It sounded like, you know, silverbacks, like, or those howler monkeys just going off, and it was like, those are not Canadian geese. I know the animals around here. I've heard them all before. Vixen fox calls can be deceiving, so can raccoons. You know, people hear screaming in the woods, usually raccoons. It's, you know, woodsmen know their sounds. And this was like nothing I've ever heard. And it traumatized me. I laid there with a knife, just freaking out, didn't know what to do. And it didn't last long. I'd say like 15, 20 seconds. They just went off doing this, like this, like it. But it was so loud. It was like, you know, when you hear a lion roar, it reverberates in your chest. So that's how I knew the diaphragm or whatever it was massive, like its lung capacity. And I didn't sleep. I waited till the morning as soon as light peaked. And I was actually petrified to even lift up the tarp to look out. And I just know I got out, looked around, nothing was there, and I left. I abandoned everything there. I just left. I got straight out of here.
At what time did you leave?
As soon as sun broke, so Halloween, October, whatever time the sun comes up then, I imagine like 6, 7-ish in the morning.
Daylight saving.
Fall, yeah. So I went straight home, and I walked home because I was like, yeah, I decided to walk here. You know, it was summer day, I had nothing better to do. And that whole walk home was the most somber walk I've ever had in my life because I was just left in my thoughts. And I'll tell you what, you know, just thinking about it, it shook me to the core. And I'd say it took me a good couple months because I remember that's when we met and we came out with Tom and, you know, we showed you what happened and told you my story. But I'd say even longer than that, even up to 6 months, I didn't want to go outside at night at all. You know, and I hear the stories now because you dive into it after it happens to you. You know, you want to like, what is that? So you kind of dive headfirst into the Bigfoot phenomena, and you're just hearing these stories, and they match. It's like it's the same thing. So
yeah, all the other stories you remember now more
oh
clearly.
yeah, and it's just like the same story. You know, I'm like we've talked about it before. It's like all these people can't be lying. Let's just say a small percentage, maybe like 5-10%. They're looking for some credibility. They want to bullshit a story, but they all can't be lying. These people all across the country for decades and, you know, centuries, they can't be lying. So it put a little bit more validity to it, and then I started paying more attention to it. And, you know, a year and a half to almost 2 years has gone by since then, and I've been out here fishing and, you know, bringing people out, and I've told them the stories, and It seems like every time you come out now, it's, you know, between what, midnight and 3 a.m. something's always going on. The audio we got. And
Yeah, the audio we got, which I'll put in
yeah,
the video, people
it's,
can hear.
it's unexplainable.
It's behind us, right?
Right?
Your average city person or that isn't outdoors is going to come up with all these explanations, and they think they know, but they're not out in the woods like we are. You know, they don't. I could be in a dead sleep and hear things, and I just instinctively, subconsciously know that's this, that's this, that's this.
Yeah, and
you
you
don't
might
even
not
care.
even wake up.
You don't even
Right.
care because you know. But when some of the stuff that goes on, it wakes you right up because you know it's not normal.
Right.
And I brought a guy out here fishing, and we were about a mile back around the bend, and we decided to leave. I'd say between midnight and 1 in the morning. And this was this past October,
Yeah.
around October too, maybe November. But I'll have to ask him. He'll tell me the actual time. But
Yeah.
so we decided to leave, and he had known about the stories. I told him, and he didn't take it for a grain of salt. You know, he thought I was kind of because he's not an outdoorsman. And we get around this corner, and we spooked something, and what they call in the Bigfoot community the bionic owl sounds. You know, those. It's not normal. And I hear owls out here all the time, and you know what it is. And it was more of like an ape mix with fake owl sounds. It's really hard to describe, but they're online. People have the audio, and I found one, and I'm like, that's exactly it. So we're walking, and we must have spooked something up.
And you were up there.
We're on the ridge, yeah. There's a pipeline up here, and instead of walking through the woods at night, because it's
Right.
hard to navigate even with headlamps, it just sucks. You'd rather walk the pipeline. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And this thing followed us, and I'd say about every 40 yards, 30 yards that we were walking out, it was following us. And by the time we got here around this area, and we're still 3/4 of a mile out, half a mile out, that's when I told him, I said, you face your back to me, keep the light shining behind us, wherever that sound's coming from, don't take your light off of it. So I'm walking this way, he's behind me facing this way with his headlamp, and whatever it was intelligent enough to stay out of the light, because it was just beyond the reach of light, and you could hear it. And you can hear their leaves rustling, and you can hear it making these sounds.
You think there was one or
Just
two?
one, yeah.
You think it was down on the slope, or was it up behind
I
you?
think it was down the slope at first, but as we started walking, it trailed up. It was following us. We know it was because it followed us and did this the entire way out.
Yeah, which is
I mean,
like
a considerable distance.
yeah, 10 to 15 minutes walking.
Yeah, exactly. It takes 10 minutes to get out of here from here. I mean, I've been doing this forever, you know, and I know how long it takes to get out of here, and that's at a meager pace, just not running, not walking slow, but we were speed walking, and it still was following us. I mean, it was every 30 to 40 yards you would hear it do these noises again. These, it's just bizarre. It's not, you could rule out geese, you can rule out anything else, but, I know for a fact it did because the whole way out up until we got close to the road, it stopped. that's when it just stopped and we didn't hear anything. And when we got in the car, you know,
Yeah, what did he?
he was shaking in his boots. He was shaking. He was like, I believe you now. He's like, I believe you. And the whole time, the whole ride home, I let him talk. Because I've already experienced it. I'm shooken up, but I wanted him to talk. And he was shook up. You could tell he was shook up.
What did he say?
Just, you know, that now I believe you. It's pretty much, you know, he was like, now I believe you. He's like, he said, I remember it's almost verbatim. He's like, you know, I used to think you were full of shit talking about this, but he's like, I believe you now. And he was shook up. He knew, you know. And every time we came out after that, he was a little more cautious of himself, just like I was, you know. You start paying attention more, but he was shook up.
Yeah, and this place has a long history. You know, there was other people that remember they're on an ATV.
Yeah, okay, so my friend
Rocks.
Adam, when I first had my incident where I was sleeping out here, you know, when I got home, I posted about it, and I was like diving head first. He saw my post and immediately messaged me, and he told me the story. He's like, yeah, I was out there on the other end of Beaver Run when years ago. And he brought his ATV stuck, it died. So he brought two guys with him. One's a doctor now and one's a lawyer. And he brought them both out here, you know, to help him get this quad going so he can get out. And he said they were growled at, they had rocks thrown at him. And he said, I haven't been back since. And same thing. And he's like, these are two credible guys. He's like, this isn't, you know,
yeah, it's not
story
just you.
time.
Right.
It's, yeah, he had two other people with him. And he's like, message them, talk to him. They'll tell you the same thing. He had rocks thrown at him for a while, and when he started getting growled at and that happened, he said he was out. They came back later to get it, but it shook him to the core too, where he's a firm believer now. And you know, that one of the first things I did, I started looking online, like Bigfoot sightings. Sure enough, they go back to what, the 60s, I believe, or 70s.
Yeah.
And out in 66 in Delmont, every summer, every year, there's a report. And last year, or the year before, it was a lady and her two daughters in the car, and they posted on across Westmoreland, 6-7 foot tall, bipedal, all white-haired creature crossed the highway in 66 just after the beer barn on Delmont.
Yeah.
And it happens every year. Someone reports one there.
Yeah, there's another one from 3, 4, 5 years ago, right in front of that gas company.
Yep.
Or the RV company, right
I know
next
what
to
you're
the
talking
gas.
about, yeah.
Went right up there.
Sunoco State, I think it's Sunoco Gas, or
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's just a reoccurring pattern, and to me, I kind of lean towards thinking that they're migratorial, because at certain times of the year, they're just not, you don't have any action. You know, I mean, if I was an animal, I wouldn't want to hang out here in the winter. I might go somewhere else, possibly, but I just see it more happening in the fall, like they're more moving in the fall and the spring, and it's just...
Okay, now you gotta. So you've had all these encounters here.
Sure.
Right? You don't live that far away.
Yeah, what, 8-minute drive?
Right.
7 minutes down the road.
But then just recently you messaged me and you were talking about you were driving
It's
and
unbelievable. I told you, I'm not at this. I was only shook for that day, you know, because now I'm just like I expected. But I was dropping my girlfriend off at her house, and it's about 6 in the morning. I get down from the area New Ken. It's not too far, and I'm hitting Saddle Pack Trail down there, and you know, it's about 6:15, 6:10, something like that. Right after sun's just now breaking, you can visibly see, you know, and I don't have glasses. I can see
in the morning.
in the morning, yeah, in the 6 in the morning, and I see this black silhouette like start to take its first step onto the road. But as I'm traveling, you know, I'm getting closer, so within that first second I'm like this ahead of my steering wheel, like what is that? And it's becoming more clear, and it's, you know, I would say around my height, but it wasn't big. It was just average build, but you could tell it was covered in thick, all solid black hair. I couldn't make out digits or a face, but it wasn't. Why would a person be in a suit at 6 a.m. just to walk across a road? I knew what it was, and it hit me like, I'm like, what is this? And I could see it like it was just like they described, like how a ghost kind of floats, but it moved with like a sleekness about it that it was just so fluent. And it wasn't like a human walks, but it was in the same sense of there was motion, but it's hard to explain, you know, but it was like it just cruised across the road in just a matter of 3 steps. We're talking, what, a 20-foot wide road?
3 steps.
Just a couple. It was just like,
Yeah.
But it was just weird. It was like if
Just
Michael
cruising.
Jackson was moonwalking, but forward, not backwards. Like, I don't know how to explain it, you know, it was just really odd. But it got across, and by the time then, now I'm up to it, because I'm going like 30 miles an hour, 25, 30 mile an hour. And I get up to it, stop, and my eyes are peeled. I'm now like wide awake because I know what I just saw. And I'm looking in the area where it crossed, and I see absolutely nothing. It was like it vanished into thin air. I'm looking everywhere, like, did it lay down? Did it really start running when it got across the road? I couldn't explain it. So the whole ride home, you know, I'm the same way the past encounters were. I'm just like eyes wide open, like freaked out. What's going on?
It's kind of like a shock.
And now it's like, by now I just expect it, like just to, because I guess I'm paying attention more.
Right.
And your average person doesn't, you know. I mean, it's just.
But yeah, now remember that video that I sent you that minutes right after? Did it look like any sort of?
Yeah, I mean, I could say they all seem similar the way they move.
Yeah.
You know, except for some of the videos where they're in the woods, but when they're in open areas, it just seems like, I don't know. It's just so hard to explain. It's like.
Because that one, I just thought of that. When you described it on text message.
Right.
That's the one I thought of.
That's what clicked in your head to show me.
Because it's dark black.
Yep.
And it kind of looks like it's walking normal, but it kind of looks like it's floating.
Yeah,
sort of too. But it isn't. It's just walking.
Right. I guess maybe it's in their joints. I don't know. It's hard. It's a guess, you know. I mean, unless I could see one right in front of me and you know, 10 feet as opposed to that far. But I definitely plan on being out here this summer, and I already know it's going to happen. I mean, I already know we're going to have more action out here because that's just what happens. It's.
Yeah, and you even had. I don't know if it's what it is, but you had filmed something probably 2 years ago, something swimming across.
Oh yeah, it was a black bear, but
yeah.
I'm over here and I see this black head. Well, I knew it was a head, but it was like a black blob. And as it gets closer, you know, your eyes start to lock in on it. And I knew, but this is when I got into this stuff, so I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't be a dog man, you know, because it's a big black object swimming and it's coming fast and it's a long stretch over there. This is only like 80, 90 yards, maybe a football field wide, but out there, that's like, you know, it's like 400-yard swim. And as it gets closer, I'm like, it's probably a bear, and it gets on land, and I watched it, you know, come up out of the water and get out and shake. And the only thing that really, like, it had a tail.
I know, I remember the tail.
It had a long, just like a German Shepherd, you know, their tail kind of goes like this, and you can see the hair falling off of it. It's like it was a bear, but it had a tail, and bears don't have tails. They have bobs, you know, like a little, like a rabbit bush.
And remember that other, remember your dad was here, and he saw something.
Now that, we know that was a bear that time, yes.
Yeah.
I actually watched it. It was probably 30 yards from me. Big black bear, you know, it walked right past me. We had prints over on the other side, about a mile through the woods here, on the other side of the lake. You know, we got a good photo of the prints, but that.
Yeah, that one.
It was just really odd.
And I'll try to find that. I think. I still
have the video too. I mean, I filmed it. I got it, and I was freaked out because it was swimming to my side of the lake. So the whole time I'm fishing, I'm looking like it's either going to go straight, right, or left. If it goes left or straight, I'm cool. If it comes to the right, it's going to cross my path.
It was good that you thought to film it. You know,
I had the time.
Right.
I had the time, and this is a thing, people will give you flack, and they'll say, why didn't you film what you saw? And it's like, well, am I holding a phone all day like this, or my camera? You just don't have the time. But this was, luckily, it was traveling in the water slow, and I had enough time to pull the camera out and do that. And that was my first initiative. You know, when you see something just cross the road while you're driving, ask yourself, can you pull your phone out, open the app, open the camera app, and then start hitting record? And that takes a 2-second delay on anybody's phone. So, come on.
You'd almost have to have it mounted
you
and
need
ready.
You need a dash
record.
cam. You need a dash cam that's running to a hard drive, just like some of the modern cars, you know.
But you know what? Every time I leave your house to go home, every time I'm on that road where you saw something there recently, I always keep my eye open there because it's kind of a out of the way, cutting through the.
It is. And then when you go home and actually look at where you see stuff like the topographic area, it's like a thoroughfare. It would make sense, you know, when you start really paying attention to where the houses are, where the humans are, and where these routes are, where you see stuff and where things happen. It's like, well, that makes sense to me. If I didn't want to be seen, that's where I would go. I would travel through the top ridges of the hills where there's no one at and just follow. It's like they call it, like sometimes green belts, you know, where you got miles and miles of just forestry with nothing obstructing them. I mean, you could get across the entire state of PA probably without having to cross a road if you really wanted to. I mean, it's not Penn's Woods for nothing, you know.
Well, thanks for sharing.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm sure I could think of some other instances, but those are the ones that were absolutely memorable, you know, where there's no denying it, you know. I mean, everybody hears a creak in the night, but it's nothing like that.
You know, when you start hearing gorillas in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll never forget that night. It's changed me, I know that, because you pay attention more when you're out. You don't just sit around at midnight in the middle of the woods, because this is deep woods, Pennsylvania. This isn't like there's only 2 houses out here this way, and it's all forestry.
But at least you're, a lot of people get freaked out, they never come back.
Yeah.
You're back,
Yep.
you're doing everything.
It took me a while.
you normally were doing.
It definitely took me a while to build the courage up, and I would leave at like 7, like an hour before darkness. I used to get just freaked out because of what happened, and I didn't want to be out here, and I still haven't slept out by myself since then. I've brought other people and camped out, but it's just going to take me, it might take some time. I think this summer will be the summer I'll finally do it again, but don't get me wrong, I'll have plenty of lights and batteries and protection, and I'll still be nervous. I'll tell you that much. I'll still be nervous because you know as well as I do, once that 2 a.m. marker comes,
And when you're out here by yourself, it's a different story.
It's a totally different story. I mean, those thoughts go through your head like the missing 411, and you're on your own. You're on your own. No, you could yell as loud as you want. Help, help, help. You're done. No, there's no helping.
Right.
So, yeah, you're on your own. It's nice to have someone with you, and it's for a witness as well, because who believes you? People think you're crazy, so I try to bring a friend to fish with, and that makes it nice. And so far, the people I've brought out here, and I still tell people, yeah, you don't believe, come out here one night, and you'll find out.
Yeah.
And they do.
I mean, it's almost 25, 50% of the time. You'll hear something, see something.
Right.
Something weird.
Something you can't explain, yeah. Yeah, and you'll have pull up that audio from that night. I think we were, down there in the hammocks?
Yeah, the one night we were on this side, and then a different night we're on the other side.
Over there.
We got the longhouse.
Yep.
And then we got the wild Indian on this side. And did I tell you that there was a lady that made a post in one of the groups? It was a normal group, like friends of some little town.
Right.
Pennsylvania. And her post was, has anyone heard what sounds like wild Indians in the woods? And I'm thinking,
how was that sound?
That's what I named my recording, Wild Indians. And I said, hey, can you listen to this and tell me if that's...
Right, try to...
And she said, that's exactly what I heard. And I
was
like, thank you. You're the first person I've met that's heard that.
I'm going to pull it up right now just so maybe the camera can pull it up, because it's really easy to find. And I typed in Bigfoot bionic owl, and I have to scroll down just a little bit, and it's right there.
And this would be the most recent one
This
where
was
you guys were...
This was the one where my friend from church got...
Not the most,
But he was shaking, man. He was like, I believe you now. Yeah, see, it's already in my search history because I keep showing it and letting people listen to it. There it is right there. Crazy Owls, Bigfoot, question mark. That wah, wah, wah. That's it. Identical. Do it one more time.
And I'll play that too.
That was it. 100%. See, it's almost like there is an owl in the background, but there's something else that's not.
And you know what? I recorded that 3 times last year.
Yep.
And everybody's like, that's a barred owl. I'm like, well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. But barred owls, are they on the ground following you, too, at the same time?
Right. And that's the thing that got me. At first, I'm like, oh, it's just an owl. But as the second, when it started following, that's what he knew. He knew. He was like, that's not right. Why is this following us? It followed us the whole way out.
Right.
I mean, this is at least a half mile, 3/4 of a mile to get to the gate, and it's like it knew when we started getting close to the road. It stopped. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad I told him, face my back, keep your light facing this way while we walk, and we booked it. I mean, we were hurrying to get out of there. Both of us did not want to try to investigate. It was like, this doesn't want us here at all. It's following us and making these noises. Like,
yeah.
When only animals that do that are pissed that you're in their area. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah. And until this spring, in the next couple months for the next wild adventure, because I'm sure it's going to happen. I mean, at this point now, I don't even doubt it. There's no skepticism,
It's just like, when's it going to...
When?
What's it going to be next?
What's it going to be next, yep.
Right.
I mean, it's a scary thought, but I'm not going to let it keep me out of the woods,
Yep.
Not me.
All right, man, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep fishing and see what we see.
That's is. That's all you can do.